Workshop 9, pronunciation. So you're going to start this workshop with a warmer that we call rhyming tennis. And it goes like this. In pairs, one participant says a word and the partner says a word that rhymes with the first word. And then, if correct, they say another word, anything, and the first partner has to say a word that rhymes until somebody can't think of a word. So, for example, boat, coat, seat, meat, road, stop. A wins a point. Okay, so rhyming tennis, play that for 10 minutes in pairs, and then go into the session overview, and as usual, explain the aim of this session. After explaining the aim, ask the participants in groups to discuss the questions in their books. Why is pronunciation important? How good does your pronunciation have to be? And what do you find most difficult about English pronunciation? 10 minutes, and then move on to stage 3. Stage 3, practicing what we call minimal pairs. And so these are pairs of words with one sound which is different. So you can see in the table, sheep, ship. So the different sound is the E as opposed to the I. Sheep, ship. There are more examples there, and so you can see each column is numbered. Sheep column is number 1, ship column is number 2. You, the trainer, should read out some words at random, and the participants shout out the number column they belong to. So if you say bet, they should shout 1. If you say duck, they should shout 2. You say cat, they shout 1, etc., etc. So you're hoping that they are able to distinguish between these minimal pairs. You can then hand over the activity to the participants, so they're in pairs. They practice saying and guessing which column. Next, the participants in pairs, participants in pairs refer to the chart, the phonemic chart here, which uses symbols to show sounds. They refer to the chart and write in the phonemic symbols that represent the sound, the minimal pair. So you'll see in your trainer manual that the answers to this. So 3, the sound is this one here. A circle with a line through it. It's the sound th. And you'll see underneath the symbol the word think. And 3 in that column is opposed with tree. And so quite simply that sound is there. It's just the letter T. So they complete that in their pairs. You can get the pairs to check their answers with other pairs or conduct a very brief feedback. And then quickly get the groups, put them into groups of 4, and ask them to identify sounds which their students find difficult in English. So these are the sounds which typically students here find difficult. And participants should then make their own minimal pair exercise to practice these problematic sounds. So the next stage is going to practice the word stress. And you can see the table. Each column represents a word stress pattern. The dot is a syllable, and the large dot is the stressed syllable. So column A is a 2-syllable word with the stress on the first syllable. Column B is a 2-syllable word with the stress on the second syllable. C is a 3-syllable word with the stress on the second syllable, etc. And above the table, there are the names of countries. So you will have to model the exercise for the participants so that they can, first of all, understand syllables, they can count syllables, they can identify stress, and then they understand the exercise. So model the word Argentina, ask how many syllables. Argentina, it's got 4 syllables. So it's either column E or F. Where's the stress? Argentina, Argentina, Argentina. It's the 3rd syllable. So it goes in column F. You might want to do it with another one. Brazil. Brazil has 2 syllables. Brazil. And the stress is on the 2nd syllable. So it's column B. Put the participants into pairs, get them to complete the exercise in their pairs, and then check the answers as a whole group. Okay, so stage 5. If you have dictionaries available, then you can do this. If you don't have dictionaries available, you can just leave it. If you have the dictionaries available, then you ask the participants to look up these words: enough, category, increase, increase, and cue. And write the pronunciation in the 2nd column. So using the phonemic script. You have the answers in your trainer book. They mark the stress with a small dash before the stressed syllable. So enough. It's the 2nd syllable which is stressed. And then, again, if you have dictionaries available, then ask the participants to do the same for these subject-specific words: protractor, set square, compass, calculator, etc., etc. If you haven't got dictionaries, just don't do this stage. So the next stage is sentence stress. And you will need to model this very carefully, this first sentence. So we're showing how one sentence, the same sentence, can carry different meaning depending on which word is stressed. And so each of these 5 sentences with the stress in a different place is actually the answer to a different question. So the stress marks a different kind of answer. So, for example, who was teaching science in English yesterday? Mark was teaching science in English yesterday. You're stressing the name Mark because it is the answer to the question who. Who is teaching science in English yesterday? Mark was teaching science in English yesterday. So their task now is to read the sentence, the answer, Mark was teaching science in English yesterday, and think of what question would bring that answer. So because the verb is being stressed, Mark was teaching science in English yesterday, then this is a contradiction of a question, I don't think, or a statement, something like, I don't think Mark was teaching science in English yesterday. No, Mark was teaching science in English. The second one, Mark was teaching science in English yesterday. So it's the verb, the gerund, which is stressed. Therefore, this is in contradiction to something like Mark was experimenting science yesterday. No, Mark was teaching science in English yesterday. So all of these, the stressed word is the opposition to the word which in the preceding sentence. It's quite challenging, so you will probably have to go around helping the pairs to do this exercise. Okay, so 7, stage 7, intonation. Intonation is the way the voice goes up and down in English, in any language. So you need to drill these sentences in the example, first of all. And we're practicing the intonation, first of all, of lists. And in a list, it's the last item in the list whose intonation goes down. So we need a globe. We need a globe and an atlas. We need a globe, an atlas, and 30 textbooks. So that is the intonation pattern for a list. Every item in the list has a rising intonation, except the last item where the intonation falls. And so the game is that, and you can play this as a whole class, as a whole group. One person starts, it's a memory game. You ask, what do we need for a geography lesson? And first participant says, we need a globe. The next participant says, we need a globe and an atlas. Third participant, we need a globe, an atlas, and 30 textbooks. Fourth participant, we need a globe, an atlas, 30 textbooks, and a whiteboard. And you continue until somebody can't remember all of the items. Now, section B. This is a simple matching, but you will need to model the phrases on the left-hand side. So model it with the correct intonation, and the participants try to identify which intonation pattern it is. So, what's the capital of France? And you might show the intonation with your hand, because they will find this difficult. What's the capital of France? You can see it's a falling intonation. What's the capital of France? It's Madrid, isn't it? It's Madrid, isn't it? That's the fall rise. Really? Really? Rise and fall. Really? Surprise. And finally, is it Paris? Is it Paris? So rising intonation for that one. So you'll need to drill that again and again, and they will try to identify the intonation pattern you're using. Now then, your participants, you have introduced your participants to the idea of syllables. How many syllables are in a word? Argentina. There are 4 syllables in that word. But we can count the number of syllables in a sentence as well. So this sentence in the example, there's a pen on the book in the middle of the table. You ask participants to count the number of syllables in that sentence. They do that individually. They can check in pairs, and you can then model the sentence and count the syllables. There's a pen on the book in the middle of the table. 14. There's a pen on the book in the middle of the table. 14 syllables. Second sentence, 1, 2, 3, 4. They are single syllable words, and there are 4 words, there are 4 syllables. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, explain that English is not a syllable-timed language. The number of syllables is not important. English is a stress-timed language, and the number of content words is important. And you're going to do an activity which will highlight this. First of all, ask the students, participants, to mark the content words in the 2 example sentences. So the first one, there's pen on the book in the middle of the table. These are the important words in that sentence. The second one is simply a list. Every item is important. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 content words. So in the first sentence, with 14 syllables, there are only 4 content words. In the second sentence, every one is a content word. So now, get your participants to say the second sentence and clap at the same time, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get everybody saying it and clapping. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. At the same time, you say the first sentence. There's a pen on the book in the middle of the table. There's a pen on the book in the middle of the table, while your participants are saying 1, 2, 3, 4. So you are showing how the content words are important. The stressed words are important, not the syllables. Okay, so then you get the participants to repeat the sentence. There's a pen on the book in the middle of the table, doing the correct rhythm. Now ask participants in pairs to write a sentence from a typical sentence from their lesson, from their subject, and to highlight the content words. And when they've done that, they should practice saying the sentence. So if it's a computer teacher, maybe the sentence is, click on the icon on the left of the screen. Click on the icon on the left of the screen. The Content words are the ones which carry all of the meaning. You can understand the sentence, you can understand what the person wants to say with only the content words. Click, icon, left, screen. So you can drop the prepositions, the articles, and you can still understand the sentence. So the content words are the ones which carry all of the meaning, and they are the important ones, which is why sometimes English is difficult to understand, because we do not stress the non-content words. Okay, so participants write their own sentence, they mark the content words, they practice saying the sentence. And that is the end of the session, except for the traditional reflection and review. Ask your participants to record any useful vocabulary or phrases in their notebook